Hello. All right, what do we think? Awesome. We probably pull our chairs up and sit. But hello, everybody, and welcome to the East Coast premiere exclusive post-movie chat with Jay and
Jack.
What did we like the movie?
Yes.
This is the second time seeing it, and it's just so cool. Somehow they just captured what made the show special, the fan experience, the experience from the people that actually created this show, and it's just, I think it's an incredible creation that occurred over the course of the 3 years of making it. And Ralph, one of the producers on the movie, like, he's a friend that I just talk to all the time anyway, and there was just this, like, every couple of weeks they're like, oh, we just got Evangeline Lilly, oh, we just got,
Did you get Matthew Fox?
Yeah, no. It's just like, there's always like, Gia Fox? No. I was like, okay, all right, well. But then I was just talking to Zach. I believe the J.J. Abrams interview didn't happen until like a month before the premiere of the movie.
I thought it was shorter than that.
It may have been shorter than that. And I just remember Ralph sent me the picture of J.J. Abrams sitting there doing the interview. I was like, so now, how are you going to get that in the movie? Aren't you like kind of far? I was like, so basically they had to re-edit it each time they got a new person to be on the documentary. And I think in the after the premiere, Taylor, the director, said he had re-edited the movie, I don't know, at least 5, 6, 7 times because they kept getting more and more people. And so it was like they would get one actor and they had a connection to somebody else, and then that would open up something else, and that would open up another thing. I remember for a while, like Damon and Carlton, they didn't know if they would get them or not. And so there's all this, finagling and trying to get scheduling working. And
well, he said he was editing it up until the day before.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy, that level of stuff being thrown in, but it was so well put together because it had such a really nice narrative all the way through. But what was your favorite part of the documentary, Jack?
I like the Jen stuff. I like the tribute to Jen. Teared up again.
Yeah. It's
hard not to tear up when you're watching that, but it's funny because I told you this before we came up here, I forgot half of it. It's like, oh, I remember that. Oh, it's just okay. They just did such a great job. I think it's a tribute to the fans. I mean, they did such a great job. And I love when the actors are saying, when they talk about the Lost fans, how crazy we are and stuff, because it's true. I mean, it's just, Lost fans are the best, let's face it. They are the best. And
yes, give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah, Lost fans.
You guys are the best. I mean, really. I still remember being in line at Comic-Con with the Heroes fans. And I don't know if you're a fan of Heroes, but all I'm gonna say is worst fans ever.
Wow, bold takes. Hot takes.
I'm just gonna say it.
Okay.
I don't see any documentary on Heroes.
Well, if people remember that. Anybody here go to San Diego Comic-Con and see a panel for San Diego Comic-Con? Okay, we got a few people. And so it became like this event, and now people camp out and wait for the Marvel panel or whatever all the time. But I went for the second year panel. Both you and I went because Ralph went for the first year, and he was like, "Oh my God, you got to go to Comic-Con. You got to experience."
And we're
this.
From San Diego. We had never been before.
Yeah, exactly. And we got there, I think, 3 hours early, and the line was so far. I was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." And by the season finale, we were camping out like 24 hours in advance and just hanging out in line through the night. But now that's commonplace, but it was so unique. Then Natasha, who is in this documentary, we befriended her in line waiting for a panel at Comic-Con.
Well, she saved our spot because that's why we became friends with her, because she was up close now.
But it's so I love how this documentary captures just the family that you created by, just being a part of the fandom, which was
But I
really
think
cool.
what was cool about being in that line with all those Lost fans is everyone was having a good time.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody was taking cuts. Nobody
Yeah.
was, there was no fighting going on. It was
Well,
just
except for between you and Chris White.
me and Chris White.
So there's a story, Chris White, who's in the documentary, he's the official, or the creator producer for the official Lost podcast. But by the way, who listened to the Lost podcast with Jay and Jack, our podcast? Okay, we got a few listeners here. So if you don't know, Jack.
The rest of you can leave.
So Jack and I hosted a show about a podcast about the TV show Lost. And when we came on, it was just us and the transmission, and there was a couple other Delta Park Gets Lost.
Delta Park Gets Lost, yeah.
And I think the Lost cast.
Yeah.
And this was before even video iPods, right? Remember just the photo iPods? Does anyone remember photo iPods? Showing our age here, and then Ryan alluded to in the documentary, they came out with the video iPod, and they put Lost on there. And for us, like the transmission, ourselves, and some of the other smaller ones, like our listenership like blew up, and we started with like 50 listeners on episode 1, and after,
it was cool.
It was amazing, like, hey, 50 people listening. But after that, it was like tens of thousands of people were listening to these shows. And on the 6th episode, Jorge Garcia called into our line. He was like, hey, just so you know, people from the show are listening. And I was like, oh, God.
I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. And he was, so anyway, it was this crazy experience. But after that, that's when Chris White started the official Lost podcast. So we were at the beginning of October. I think he was like the end of October, whatever that was. But we had never actually interacted with them before. It was years and years. And we always kind of had this fake rivalry of just like, oh, that's the official Lost podcast. I know Damon and Carlton host it every single week, and it's awesome, but...
And it's boring.
But, so we had this fake rivalry. So I think it was either the second to last year, one of the later years for the Lost panel, he was at Comic-Con.
And he was interviewing people.
He was interviewing people.
I think it was that same time
when
we camped out.
It was one of the times we camped out. You had this idea. So what was this idea to confront Chris White of the official?
We had our shirts. We had, I think it's a log carrying.
Yeah, we have a log carrying guy's shirt right here.
Right there.
Shirts, yeah. There it
Thank
is.
you. For those who don't listen, we came up with a thing because instead of red shirts, it always seemed like the people who carried the wood to the fire
Or get shot.
or ones that got shot.
Yeah.
And in fact, that picture right there is from the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. That picture's from the show. The guy that he runs in and Sawyer's there. I think they're in Dharmaville.
Maybe.
And there's shooting going on. And he has wood, and he turns around, and he gets shot. So that's him.
Because we'd always joke the log carrying guys get killed, and then on the show, a guy carrying logs got shot right in the chest.
So I'm not saying he stole it from us, but I'm sure that's what happened. But what happened was I had a shirt, and I saw Chris White, so I ran over to him. I said, "Here, take a shirt from a real Lost podcast." So after that, we became good friends.
Yeah, like best friends, actually.
Seriously, I mean, he's a great guy.
Yeah, whenever he was at Comic-Con for one thing or another, we would try to meet up and hang out. But yeah, no, I think the experience of Lost was so much fun. Going from starting it out and then getting invited to Hawaii to check out the set and to do red carpet interviews and interview all these casts and hang out with the creators of the show. And
from where we started out, again, I didn't even know what a podcast was. I'm old, and so going from there to going from 50 listeners to whatever we went to,
it's 100 and something thousand by the time.
And then going to the set and meeting the actors, and it was just incredible experience.
What was always neat was everybody from the show, whether they creators or actors, they were always really down to earth, always really kind, always really nice, and we're just as big of fans of it as the fans were. And so I think what was cool about this documentary is I think it captured that. It captured how the cast, they loved the show for whatever reason, whether it was like their first big thing or just the camaraderie they had with the people that they worked on it. it was cool that the documentary kind of captured how special it was, even for the people that made the show. The Jen part definitely hits hard. How many people were here listen to the transmission back when it was on? Okay, yeah, like that show was the first big show because they were on the island. They were, they had the inside scoop, and they would cover it, and
they were so good, so professional, and just
they were like NPR level, because Ryan Ozawa, he's kind of he's a self-professed geek. Like usually if there's something at Hawaii on any social media platform, it's usually him. And when I first started, I reached out to him, and because I didn't really know what I was doing. And he taught me so much about podcasting and how to publish, or if I ran into an issue, he would always like jump in and try to help. So I think when Jen got sick and passed away, it was just like it was losing a family member.
It was tough.
Yeah.
I think what was funny though is when they decided to call it quits. They decided to move on. They recommended our show. But we were completely different.
Yeah.
We were not organized. We were not professional. We just went in any direction we wanted to go, and we got a lot of hate mail.
Yeah, people didn't like us.
They said, "I don't know why they recommended you guys. You guys suck."
Yeah.
And I'm like going, we can't. I go, we're not Ryan and Jen.
No.
We're just not. But it all worked out at the end.
So I think I'm curious to see what y'all's thoughts are. We can make this kind of a give and take, a Q&A, and any questions that we can try to ask. I think Colleen, who's also great in the films, give Colleen a round of applause. Check. Colleen has a microphone, but if anybody wants to ask a question or want to bring up something, we will do our best to answer it or talk about it.
Hello.
All right. Hello, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth.
Hello, Elizabeth.
I'm Dharma Barbie today in my painting.
Yes!
I'm here with my son Wilson, who watched it with me and was a tiny infant when it was the finale. And I was just praying he would stay asleep so we could watch it. And then we
Been
got
there.
to watch
Children's
it
shop.
together, and I hope that you get that same experience
Yes.
to watch them go on that roller coaster ride of all these characters.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite things about Lost is that it really was kind of a toy for us to play with in between. It wasn't just a show. And one of the coolest things, I think, are the recuts, where people do like chronological Lost. And I was wondering what you think about those in general, and if there's one type of cut you would like to see someone do that's not been done yet.
Ooh, that's a great question. For one, yes, we've had that debate on when's the right time to show our kids Lost. How old was your 14? 14 and 12.
Curious kids who did not spoil themselves.
Okay.
We won't spoil, and who have been watching it. Like, we're almost to the end of season 6, so we're gonna roll the dice.
Okay. This wasn't too spoilery.
So you haven't finished it yet?
Yeah.
All right, let me tell you how it ends.
But it's really like magical and special as a parent who I love. I made the fish biscuits. My sister came for the.
Yeah.
And just to let them, puzzle over these things and discuss and go back and forth. Like, it's just really special.
I love that. I hope to have that with our kids. It's kind of funny bringing, and Zach and Alex are there. They're 10 and 6. Say hi to Zach and Alex. There you are. Hi, wave, yeah. They're kind of not probably old enough for it yet, but yeah, I definitely can't wait for that. But in terms of like chronological edits or ideal edits, I dig it for Star Wars. I don't know if you heard like the machete edit, where like the order of the films you show them in could be better. But for me personally, I kind of like the way it is, just because the mystery and how it unfolds. The only thing maybe I would probably tweak is the flash sideways and not having them happen at the same time in season 6. So the post-death experience, or whatever you want to call that. Because I think that was a little jarring. I think that's where a lot of people got confused with the finale, maybe got frustrated with the finale. I almost think like have that somehow be an epilogue, maybe, even though there is an epilogue. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I think that's the only thing maybe I would tweak order-wise. How about you, Jack?
I've never watched them. I'm happy with the way the show was, and I mean, I get the work that people put into it. It's amazing, but I've never watched it.
But what do you think of it as like a concept? So you don't like
No,
the idea?
I'm fine with it. People want to watch. I just never watched it.
Oh,
Sorry.
Never watched Lost? That's
No, I've never watched Lost. I watched this documentary.
You were lying the whole time?
I was dead the whole time. So.
Oh my god! Big reveals, big
You
reveals.
see dead people.
But even now I'm thinking about it even more, like the season 5 with the time travel, that could be better as just like one. It opens a lot of questions. I think there's a lot.
Maybe go back and edit out Nikki and Paulo.
Okay, actually this is a great question. So the Nikki and Paulo, that whole story, but their last episode, I actually argue is pretty good.
I was spoiled on that episode.
You were spoiled? Oh, okay. So Colin, can you give the mic to this gentleman up here? He's shouting praise. Just why do you love Expose?
I'll take it for him. He has lost his voice.
Oh.
He's an advocate for this episode. He really loves it.
Why? What is it? Why do you like it?
I just think it's genius how they spliced everything together and put them in all these different things. And it's a metaphor for their characters, how they kill them off. I just think it was just really genius the way they delivered it.
No,
I agree. Killing him off was the best part. I say that was the best part for sure.
But no, I think that's what I love about even Expose, which at the time was divisive. A lot of people just hate it, but now
Razzle
razzle. But now there is this large group that's like, no, actually, it's a really good episode. Like if you look at it in the context of that season, that show, what those characters represented, and just the fun of that episode. It was actually a perfect way to send them.
The problem is, I know why they were doing it, because they didn't have an end date yet, and they were trying to, bring in new characters, but they blew it because they should have had them not be at the beach with them. They should have been like in the front of the plane, or some other area where they got tossed somewhere else in the island. Then they come over. Then you could tell their story, but because there's no way going to season 3 with Lost, with all the message boards and all the the show being picked apart scene by scene by scene, that we go, all right, we know they weren't there. I think that was the problem, because as Lost fans, like they said in the documentary, it's our show and we want it done our way. But anyway.
Well, did you like how the creators on the show were like, well, it's really the fans' fault. We put them in there because of the fans. So I thought that was kind of messed up.
If you think about it too, I mean, Homecoming is way worse than the Expose. If you go back and watch that episode, that is the absolute worst episode.
Okay,
in my opinion.
Okay, no, I like that. I like everyone has like their
Stranger in a Strange Land.
That's a big one people don't like.
I'm with this.
Strange Land. I've heard Homecoming. I've heard what was the Locke flashback in season 3?
Oh,
I'm blanking on that.
when he's on the marijuana farm.
Yeah, the weed farm. People don't like that one. But I don't know where I was going with that.
I don't know. I love every Lost flashback. Locke flashback.
Locke flashback.
Locke flashback.
Okay, all right.
Hey, okay.
Yes.
So
Hello. What's your name?
my name is Carisha.
Carisha.
And my best friend Ananda and I, we are first-time Lost fans. We started watching in January.
What? Awesome. Welcome.
It's been out since 2004.
I know. The thing was, everyone and their moms was telling me last year, you gotta watch Lost, because you are like mentally unwell like all of us. And I'm
Wait,
like,
which friend said this? A friend said this?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
In January, I'm like, Ananda, if we don't watch Lost, we're gonna regret it.
Okay.
And we're like, sure. We ended up watching the series finale on the 20th anniversary. We threw a theme party and everything.
Wow.
The thing
that's
we
cool.
wanted to ask is that, like, every episode of Lost for us, they're an hour long. It took us 4 hours to do an episode. Every time something happens, we pause it. We're discussing. We're having the Socratic seminar. We're screaming. My neighbors hate me. All that stuff.
Did you have your own message board?
Oh yeah. Our friends hate us because that's all we talk about.
Oh my
But
God.
our question was, what was your this show is gonna ruin my life type moment? Because definitely it was like the moment we saw Saeed, we were like, oh no, we are locked in. We are stuck watching this show, and this show has permanently altered my brain.
Oh,
What
I
was
love
that moment for y'all?
What about Saeed? Was just seeing him?
Oh,
or-
yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
All right, okay.
For me, it's when Jay said, "Hey, we're gonna do a podcast on Lost."
my man.
Ah.
So,
No.
I loved the finale. Again, it took us like
Oh, that's a great,
6 hours
yeah.
to watch it. We started watching it right at 8 when it would have aired.
Okay.
And then we finished watching it like 1 a.m. because we kept pausing and we were like, wow, this and that.
Oh.
So what was your kind of like,
Yeah.
oh no, I love this show
Yeah.
moment for you?
Okay, real quick, just before we get to that, speaking of the finale and pausing it. So there's some clips in it there, but Jack and I were a part of a group that hosted a finale party in downtown LA, and we rented out the Orpheum Theater in downtown LA, which seats like, I don't know, 2,300 people or something like that. And we had to do all this work with ABC to basically put it up on a big theater screen, and there was...
We tried to get the East Coast feed.
Yeah, so we won't
We
get
didn't want
spoiled.
to get
because we're on the
spoiled, but
West
we had to do the
Coast.
West Coast.
And so it was just this incredible experience. We gave away a Dharma van in it. There's clips. You just look at like.
It's sweet.
Yeah.
I almost stole
You
it.
can probably just Google Jay and Jack Lost finale and see stuff. But Michael Emerson came out to give away the van. It was just a crazy, amazing
He did a
experience.
question and answer before the show started.
But what was so incredible about it, it was just the live feed. And in the finale, and it's not too spoilery if we haven't seen the finale yet, but there's this scene, it was almost like this Wolverine scene with Jack, or was it Locke jumping up? I think it was Jack.
It's Jack.
Jack jumps up and he's like coming down to beat up Bad Locke, and it cuts the commercial break.
Cuts to a Target commercial.
Yeah, it's a Target commercial. And it was so cool because it's like one thing watching it at home with your friends. This was 2,300 people collectively gasping all at the same time. And it was still a memory that's seared in my brain of like how you're saying of like stopping, but we all collectively had this like holy shit moment. It's something that I'll always remember. But it's really cool that you're watching just pausing at the moments because we didn't really have that luxury when we were doing the show.
But I remember watching the pilot going, okay, my biggest question was, it was for like the first, season and a half, whatever, we finally answered it, or kind of answered it. I said, how did they survive? How did they survive this? It bugged me every week. I go, okay, that's great that they're, lock and walk. And I go, but how did they survive the plane crash? I think that was my biggest, and then the numbers came up and I got obsessed with the numbers.
But even still, like, because we podcast about it, we would record the show right after the show aired and post it like that night. And so we weren't able to pause. So the 10 minutes or 5 minutes of commercial break, that was the time, like, all right, okay, that's okay. That was
We kept our notes separate.
We did,
because Jay stole one of my jokes, so I was mad.
So he would go off to one side, I'd go off to the other. We'd write our notes between and try to like capture as much as possible.
My wife
so
would
we
go,
could talk
I
about
can't
it.
talk. No, you have to be quiet.
Yeah, it was. What was kind of cool, and speaking of, it kind of ties back into the getting hooked on the show Lost. We got caught up with it with the DVD, and our whole family got into it. So, and for those that know, Jack's my dad, so we co-hosted it together. And so we're all living in the same house. I was 20 years old. He was 40 something, 42. One of the numbers?
42,
and 42, okay. And then my mom's back there, right? Cindy Glatfelter. Let's give her applause because she had to put up with us watching that show.
Because there were sometimes we paused.
Well, so no, because we watched it and everybody, my sisters, my mom, we were all into it. We all loved it. And we started podcasting about the show in season 2. And we became such terrors, like you can't talk, you can't do anything, that they quit watching the show while the show was airing. So
Well, your mom kept watching.
she did, but my sisters gave up. Yeah. But I think for me, the thing that hooked me was Walkabout, John Locke saying, "Don't tell me what I can't do." That's when I was like, "Holy crap! This is something else." Like, and that's when I became like a diehard Locke fan. Like he was my guy, and I didn't. His downfall was always something I couldn't even like reconcile in my brain.
I predicted it.
And one of my greatest, life regrets is having to accept the fact that Jack's original take that Locke wasn't going to end up being the hero or whatever was the actual right take.
They were showing it to you in the flashbacks the whole time.
I know, but I was like, but no, he's
He just-
redeemed.
He had a chance. He blew it, and then move on.
But what was the thing that hooked you?
Again, the pilot. I love the pilot. I think it's when the dinosaurs. Because because that was the final clip of the.
Was it the
pilot?
close to the pilot? No, pilot part 1 was seeing the pilot in the tree.
No, the pilot tree, but the.
There was this scene where there's stuff going off in the jungle.
Yeah, but
and everyone's like, guys, where are we? No, that's
No,
not that part.
that's
That's the.
There was something with when the smoke monster because we didn't know what it was. All you hear is this sound, and they're just looking into the woods.
Yeah,
at
it's a
night.
famous shot.
And I go, what is that? So I just the questions and all the different stuff going on.
Yeah.
But I love the pilot.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, well, there we go. Well, what's your name, by the way?
And James,
James.
answer
nice
to
to meet
her
you.
question is what you just said. When they walked up in the mountains and heard Danielle's transmission from 16 years ago, and then Charlie just looked and says, "Guys, where are we?" I was like, "Oh God, my life is ruined as long as this is on." And at the time, my daughter and her mom didn't have cable where they were living. They lived right across town. They didn't have cable.
Yeah, yeah.
And her mom worked at night,
Mhm.
and so I would watch Lost and obsess about what I just saw.
Uh-huh.
And I saw it in there, and I was happy to see it. You log on to the fuselage and go chat about everything I thought. Oh God, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
And I would do what John Locke said. We're going to need to watch that again.
Yes.
And
yes.
I would watch it again for myself. And I knew they'd be over in an hour and a half, and I'd watch it the third time the same night.
Nice.
And every week of 3 hours, because I DVR'd it every week, even though I was watching it,
Yeah.
so they could see it. 'Cause
Yeah.
I was like, you're not going to miss this show. You're going to watch this show.
Oh, I love it.
And they have not stayed nearly as locked in as I have. My daughter thinks I'm crazy for still being so locked into it. We went to the movies and saw that thing that Brad Pitt did on the train. That
Bullet Train?
yeah, Bullet Train, that the guy from the Temple was in. And,
Yes,
he's,
yes.
he's on the poster, and we have a joking photo together where I'm pointing at him with a big smile on my face, and Dara's like, and she's like that, and I just, it's been such a, and I remember near the end, they came on one night as they were like scenes from next week, whatever, and they
Yeah.
said, next week, the final 10 episodes. I'm like, do not remind me of that. Do not remind
It
me.
was sad, yeah.
And
yeah.
the one thing I'm glad I saw in this that I've never heard mentioned anywhere, and I've asked people, is weren't they prepared for Walt to grow so fast?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they were prepared for all of this, but then at the end of the first season, they're like, crap, he's growing. And I've never heard it addressed, and they addressed it. I thought that was great.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think a lot of the what I do love about the documentary is it's kind of answering some of those questions, like the Walt thing, and them. And I don't know if anybody's ever been creative about anything, whether you've painted a picture or you've done a podcast or you've made a movie or you've written a story or whatever it is. There's something about the creative process where you start something, you maybe don't know where it's going to end, right? And whenever you do any bit of creativity. But while it was airing, there was that concern of just like, they got to have every single detail mapped out somewhere in some room. But what I love about documentary is like, no, nothing is ever created that way. You're always, starting with something, you don't know exactly where it's going to go, and you're going to kind of follow it along until you get to the end. You may know some of the key points along the way. But just the nature of the show wasn't going to allow it to be.
Well, they were probably overwhelmed with how, I think they even said it,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the actors said how people were just so into the show. Like I
Yeah.
said earlier, piece by piece by piece, frame by frame, you're
Yeah.
watching it 3 hours a day. And it's like, but they didn't expect that. So they should have had probably a better idea what to do with Walt.
Yeah.
But I think they just were shocked, how you explain the growth when it's only been 48 days or whatever
Yeah.
it is. I think they just got. The only thing you could have said, well, the island is making him grow faster or something like
I think you
that.
could have done that. Because the thing that stinks is like Walt was such an intriguing character, right? Especially in season 1, like you're setting up that he has these, psychic abilities, and you really want to find out more. And I think that was like if it was a character you didn't really care about, and then them disappearing, then it wouldn't have mattered as much. But they set up Walt as such an intriguing character. And then and his father's story too, Michael's story, like that it was such a compelling story for Michael, and then Walt had so much unlocked potential. The fact that they couldn't really ever satisfyingly pull that off or really answer all of it is a bummer. But that's why I do like, and how many people have seen the epilogue that was on the DVD set? Okay, all right. How many people here have no idea what I'm talking about? Oh, the new viewers, okay.
You have more to watch.
You have more work to do. So if for those,
Should I pull it up for everyone?
oh, that's not a bad idea. Maybe we'll close with that. No, oh, you're right. Maybe people haven't seen it yet. Well, go. So it's this.
Just go on YouTube.
Go on YouTube, look up the Lost epilogue. But for some reason, this is again going back to when DVDs were king. It was trying to sell DVDs, right? And the complete series. So if you got the complete series set, you would get an additional. How many minutes was it, Zach? Like 13 minutes. And
it was 13 minutes, and you had to enter the passcode in the DVD box to unlock the disc from the box, or you could just take a hammer to it.
That box set is so cool, by the way. It's really neat. Because it's like it had a replica of the island on it, and then it had anyways, it's a really cool set. But anywho, this epilogue basically wrapped up a lot of the answers to the show, like a lot of Dharma Initiative questions. What happens to the crew after, or at least the people that are stewards of the island. So I won't spoil it, but the epilogue answers a lot of those things.
It's worth the watch.
It is worth a watch.
But going back to Walt, I didn't like, they didn't have an answer for him, and then how Michael's character completely changed, and how, I don't want to spoil the ending, but I thought his character got screwed over.
Yeah, he did.
I didn't like the way his character went at all. I mean, the scene where he shoots Anna Lucia, and then poor Livy with her blanket
pillows, I think, or something.
The pillows. I mean, that was a cool scene. I mean, it was kind of shocking.
Was that in the documentary, Jorge, talking about that, being upset that Libby got killed?
No, you didn't say that.
No, maybe it's an extended cut, but he was like, I finally have a love interest, and you kill her.
You kill her. But I don't know how others feel, but I thought Michael got just screwed over.
Yeah, that story, I think that's one of the great, and the other one for me is Mr. Echo. The fact that he wanted to leave the show because his character was so good and his backstory was so good, and he was such a good counter to Locke and to Jack, and him having to kind of unceremoniously leave, or be taken out of the show in season 3 was part of like what made that first half of season 3 such a bummer, because Echo was amazing. So it sucked losing him.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I had one more when you said that.
Sure.
I've always heard that a lot of what Echo was going to do was given to Locke.
Yeah.
Do we know if the smoke monster part was going to be given to him, or if that was going to be John, or do we even know how much of it?
Well, you don't know. You don't know where it could have taken, right? Because clearly things would ebb and flow with like.
They had a connection with Echo and the monster.
They did.
Yeah.
It's you don't know. We don't know. You'll never know. It's one of those great
Thanks,
kind of.
Echo.
Yeah, it's like you didn't want to live on Hawaii. Hawaii was awesome. I would live there.
But the wondering is the best part of some of those questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the best thing about Lost.
Yep, agreed. All right, next question over here.
You
Hello.
all everybody.
That is my like earworm at all moments of my life.
I love it.
Hi, I'm Anna.
Hey, Anna.
Hi. What are your personal hot takes, unpopular
God.
opinion?
Oh, please don't ask Jack.
And please be honest and tell us, because I want to know.
So for those that don't know, that haven't listened to the show, the close of every show we had something called Jack's Crackpot Theory of the Week. And the goal of that segment was Jack would come with some outlandish theory.
Which always came true.
No, it only came true
It was like
once.
I was writing for the show. It was crazy.
Only once.
Several times.
One time. But yeah, do you have any outlandish takes?
Outlandish takes. Well, I had one where one crackpot theory. We're talking about crackpot theories.
These are crackpot theories, yeah.
We see the backstory of Shannon and Boone, where they kind of did more than just be brother and sister. My theory was that Shannon was pregnant with Boone's baby, and Anna Lucia shot her did the whole thing. So pretty sure that happened.
Yeah, I think, did you have that theory before she got shot?
Oh yeah, before she got shot, I said it before. After we saw the backstory, what happened, I said, oh, she's gonna be pregnant, and then it's gonna be the whole thing with Saeed and all that different stuff. But nope, didn't happen. Anna Lucia ruined that scene for me.
My favorite one of Jack's though was Rose and Bernard working for Dharma, and so it was mainly because he was like, they're too sweet, they're too kind, they have to be like, I don't know.
No, that's not why.
Okay, why?
You had Bernard was on with the Tailies.
Okay.
Rose was on with the
middle fuselage.
Fuselage, whatever. The original people. My theory was Dharma caused the plane crash. And I said, okay, because how could they survive? Going back to the how could they survive stuff. So I had this whole drawn out theory. I said, okay, so Rose is getting information on this side, Bernard's getting information on this side. This is before we found out that, what was it, what's his name? Ethan was a plant, and Goodwin.
Well, we knew Ethan was a plant if you knew, because we didn't know Bernard until season 2.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, either way. And I said, okay, they must be plants because they're on both sides. Because how could they both survive? And how did Bernard?
They wrote it on the show.
Well, how did Bernard? Oh, Bernard was in the bathroom, but Charlie was in the bathroom, and he ended up with everybody. So, anyway, that was my theory, and they were so close because they went back in season 5, right? Season 5?
Yes. So like they went back in time, and they ended up almost everybody worked
for Dharma, except Rose and Bernard, who said they retired. But my theory is they retired from Dharma.
Yeah.
We just didn't get it.
But it was so funny because the Rose and Bernard, they stayed behind. They weren't on the Oceanic 6, and so that whole season, when all of them ended up working for Dharma, Jack was like, "Oh, here we go. It's finally gonna happen. I was right," and blah 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 blah. Because everyone would give him so much crap about it.
I wouldn't let go of it either.
And I think, was that the theory you brought up to Damon and Carlton at Comic-Con, the first panel?
No, I was Underwater Hatch.
Underwater Hatch, that was the other one, which ended up being true. That's the one that ended up being true. But
I said to him, I said, "Where does that cable go?" I go, "Who was it? Saeed?"
Yes,
yeah, I said Saeed went the wrong way. He should have went out towards the ocean.
Yeah, he did. And it was before, it was after season 2, I think.
Yeah, once we saw the hatch.
And it was really cool. They have like cast and crew hats and stuff. And when they did the Underwater Hatch thing, where they actually showed the Underwater Hatch, what happened?
I got a hat from an actor
that had the Underwater Hatch logo on it. So they were so happy for Jack that he was right for once.
Let's be honest. How many people had theories that didn't come true?
Oh yeah.
Right.
All right. Cause this show is crazy.
Anybody else have fun theories that came true?
See?
Being down there was punishment.
Ooh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Stopping.
That's a good take.
I came in here dressed as Krasinski, actually. I switched to me Kyle halfway through.
Nice.
2 universally hated side characters. Both of them so much.
Krasinski's awesome. Yeah, I love Krasinski. Yeah.
Phil's pretty despised too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't like Phil. Not a fan.
But awesome. Hopefully that answered your question on hottest takes. I guess I never had hot takes. I didn't have any hot takes. No. I was the host of the podcast, not the crazy crackpot guy. I never really had crazy theories.
Didn't you have one?
Maybe I tried and it failed miserably, so I just stopped doing it.
Stay in your lane.
Jay, since you can't answer me directly,
Okay.
What is the best couple that never was?
Ooh, best couple that never was. What was so cool, or maybe you liked it or you hated it, but while the show was on, the shipper community was like its own thing, right? Like you had the people that loved Lost for the mystery, right? And they theorize on the fuselage, or sending stuff to podcast, stuff like that. But then there was a whole other subsection of the internet that was like all about the ships, right? And so you had Jate is Fate, so that's, Jack and Kate. And then you had, what was the Kate and Sawyer, what was that one? Skate.
I'm ashamed I know that.
But and there were message boards like exclusively to like dive into the ships and stuff like that.
I think one time we said we didn't care.
And we pissed off the shipper community.
That was rough. That was bad.
But it's what's that?
You still want to know what the ship,
Relationships.
What couple that you wanted to get together that didn't? Locke and Claire?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Locke was moving in.
But you wanted that to happen?
I'm not saying I wanted it. I'm just
You just
throwing
said it. He just said it.
I was just throwing it out there. Give the bald guy,
I would have loved to see Son and Michael together.
Oh, yeah. They had a bit of a connection. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But what about Jen?
Poor Jen. We didn't like him at first, though. Remember?
No.
We
We didn't like
hated
him. He was mean.
Yeah, he was mean.
Well, that was the key to a lot of Lost characters. In the beginning, you didn't like them, and then you see their backstory, you go, okay.
I know everybody hates her, but me evidently, and she got killed obviously too soon. But I always was hoping, okay, they're gonna get Jack and his attitude together. This is gonna happen.
Yeah, Anna Lucia and Jack.
Someone's gonna get this together.
No, they were going to go build an army that never happened.
But like when you think about it, like Julia and Sawyer getting together, like they were perfect for each other. Kate and Jack just never made that much sense to me. It was just kind of like I don't know, on paper that should be. I agree that like Jack and Ana Lucia were so like better for each other because they had so many similar shortcomings.
I see a lot of fights.
And maybe, but like I don't know, they aligned more. Maybe they probably would have been to opposites attract, but that one's pretty good.
Of course, you see Ana Lucia's backstory, you go, oh, I feel bad for her.
Yeah, but I think this one happened, but it didn't end up happening, or the one that I guess mattered in the afterlife. But I always thought Saeed and Nadia should have been together,
right?
Not Saeed and Shannon.
Because he knew what Shannon for 2 days?
Yeah, it was like a couple weeks or something.
And he was mourning for like 4 years.
Because it's just like you had this talk about like Saeed wrecked you, or that's when you became like a fan or whatever, right? But like the Nadia Saeed story just was so compelling early on, and yeah, that was I love the finale, but that was the only part of the finale I was like, it should have been Nadia. Should have been Nadia. They should have been together. I agree. But I get it. Like whatever. You had to have Shannon there. You can't have her there with Boone. That would be weird. So.
So we have another very hot take question.
Oh, okay.
Who is a character that is very disliked that you actually love, and who is a character you love that you actually hate, and why is it Jack? I can't stand Jack. I hate him. Not you, Jack. Like
it's okay to hate him.
Neither of the Dr. Shepherds I can stand.
I will say I always defended Jack, and I said because he was put in a position he didn't want to do. Locke, who said, you got to be the leader, you got to step up and be the leader. Who undermined him every step of the way? Locke. So poor Jack is put in this position where he has to save everyone. He's the doctor. He has to do this, and everyone's looking for him to make the right decisions. He's never been to a war. He's doing all this different stuff that he's not familiar and doesn't want to do. So I think he gets some hate that he doesn't deserve. Woo! Wow. And not just because he has a great first name. That's not it either.
I have one big problem with Jack.
Okay.
A couple, but
Cries a lot.
Yeah, one of the biggest is that he didn't make any attempt to share his knowledge. He is a surgeon, and he didn't even teach everyone basic first aid. Like, yeah.
Dang.
Well, that's true, but they were only there for 48 days.
Yeah, he was the only doctor, and he always ran head first into the most dangerous.
Wow.
Well, you got people like.
Can we just pause and can we just applause this take? Because that's a really good take. That's a really damn.
All right,
good take.
okay, but you got to.
In that dangerous adventure, they would have been left with Bernard the dentist.
I know dentists that know how to do first aid and stuff. So, but okay, look what he had to deal with. He needs to do a trach, right? So he needs a tube. What does Boone bring him? A pencil, right? Come on. How can you train people like that?
But I do think there's something to. I mean, it's the character, it's how it's written, right? I think in Damon's work, he works through a lot of his own issues, you know, like in that episode, all the best cowboys have daddy issues. And Jack is a deeply flawed character, and he's portrayed that way, and it's very easy to be like, God, Jack's the worst.
He's human.
Yeah, and I think that's why I always identified more with Locke, because I kind of saw either, you know, the value or virtue in Locke more than I saw in Jack, but there is something to like just life changing and 20 years after the fact, and I kind of see the frustration of Jack, and I see, you know, why he kind of approached things later, or why he, you know, leadership was thrust upon him, he didn't want it, and
But seriously though, if he wasn't the leader, he could have done that.
Yeah.
You know, again, that's
his
Locke.
thing was always Locke should have stepped up.
No, I never said Locke should step up, because Locke wasn't a leader.
Who would you have made the leader?
I would Saeed.
Yeah, Saeed.
Saeed had the military background.
Yeah.
He was smart, he was logical, he just didn't jump into things. Well, Shannon. And then, but he was the guy that if I'm gonna follow someone, I'm gonna follow Saeed.
Yeah, that's a great call. Mike's right here.
I was just gonna say that for one thing, they kept feigning on him when he like asked for help. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched this show in 2020. I was in lockdown in the UK, failing my master's program, and I watched it in 2 weeks.
Oh wow! Wow.
But Jack is actually the character that I've like felt the most seen by in any media ever. It was kind of amazing. Just some life stuff, some of the stuff with my family, and then in my community. I ended up in positions of leadership that I did not want to be in, and that I think the show is a really, really good example of like what is wrong with Western ideals of leadership, maybe all over the world, but definitely Western ones, and how destructive it is to people who get put up there, and then how destructive it is when someone up there doesn't care, like Ben.
Yeah.
So I always thought that was really interesting, and I love Jack, so I just wanted to say that.
No, I think that's a great take. And what was your name again?
I'm Rachel.
Rachel, awesome. Rachel,